Okay,
is it recording it?
I believe so.
Okay. Alright guys, now we're going to do the final lecture. Today is going to be much more practical. So I'm going to start off by showing you an illustration of an actual discussion going on. No worries. You can answer it. So I'm actually going to go into a much more practical method today than to show you a bunch of PowerPoint slides. So the first section I'm going to do is show you some of my discussions and my responses of commentaries made and questions asked. The second part is I'm going to ask you guys to give me an argument that has been thrown at you so that I can go and tackle it, okay? And we're going to tackle it together. So I got my laptop here and we're going to put it up on the screen and I'm going to show you my thoughts. Now there's something interesting that I want you to take note. It's how useful it is to put scriptures in your head, and you will see me going left and right to scriptures according to my head, and the only reason I open the Bible so that I can quote it accurately. That's very useful. Then after that, I'm going to play the devil's advocate, literally. And I'm going to ask one of you to come and have a little debate or discussion with me. Okay? But it will be fun, don't worry, I won't be that hard.
I don't often know kids, like I said, you have to be very good. Okay, but so have fun. So this is the purpose for this lecture, is to take what we've had in the previous 3 lectures and apply them practically, so you can not only know them intellectually but actually apply them and see them being applied. And that's where it always gets nice, when you have the theory. It's great and nice, but when you actually see the theory being applied, it actually gets ingrained. So it actually gets, oh, this is nice, this is actually fun, this is how you go into it, and this is my favorite part, okay? So there's an argument. A friend of mine asked me to reply to a guy. This was a comment made on a social media website. Okay, and for obvious reasons, I've stubbed out the names. Hope so. Hope all of them were stubbed out. And so what happened was that this person, a friend of mine, put up a video regarding clean and unclean food. And the person left a comment. So let's just look at that comment. It says, "Sorry, I don't agree with this guy's thinking. I don't want to go back in bondage. This sounds like what the Judaizers were doing, trying to get Christians to abide by Jewish standards, to make them acceptable to the Jewish community, and therefore more acceptable to God. They tried to insist that all of the Christians should be circumcised in the flesh, yet Jesus spoke of circumcision in their heart. They spoke about food that goes in through the mouth, yet Jesus spoke about what comes out of the mouth reveals what is in the heart of man. I noticed that Acts 10 was not explained, but that is understandable because he does not understand Acts 10. He could never understand Acts 10 because you can't understand it in the spirit of what Jesus revealed to Peter. I'm confident in saying that unless you look at the whole Bible from the spiritual perspective, you will never understand the gospel of Jesus Christ, nor the heart of God. I hope this guy catches a wake up before it's too late." That's hard talk.
that's fun.
My initial reaction, this looks like fun. Bullet 3. Now remember.
Number 1.
Remember my first lecture, I said break it up. My second lecture, according to Time Waster. I picked it up already. I know what this guy is trying. Remember the time waster pummels you with a lot of arguments in a one short statement. Break it up. I broke it up into pieces. I quote the person, then I respond. I don't want to go back into bondage. My response. If I take your statement here at face value, then I must conclude that you consider that freedom is bondage, as it is written, so I will keep your law continually forever and ever, and will walk in freedom because I seek your precepts. Psalms 119, 44 to 45. Morality is defined by one's own standard, I've explained it here now, instead of God's standard. And it is thus freedom. So my morality is freedom, God's morality is bondage. Some sins are, in your moral standard, freedom, as sin is the transgression of the law, more specifically the law of Moses. We catch what I'm doing here? Okay? The only way around these points is that either these texts are mistaken, or the conclusion reached by your statement is non sequitur, in that the premises were based on erroneous interpretations.
Yes, exactly.
After they get the dictionary out, they go, what?
Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean by.
Yes, please decipher.
Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean, I've given 3 reasons based completely on Scripture. That Scripture explicitly, not implicitly, explicitly define the law as freedom and the way to define what morality is. Okay? And as well, what sin is. There's 3 points, explicit statements. The only way is either these 3 scriptures are false because they are explicitly stated, or your interpretation is false and thus doesn't make sense. Your premises, the arguments that you base this on, doesn't make sense. Okay? Now, here I said I made one's own standard means self-righteousness. Self-righteousness meaning many Christians, remember the last lecture about the Antichrist spirit, they reinterpret self-righteousness meaning I try to keep the law in my own strength. Actually, self-righteousness means doing what you think is right, your own standard. Okay? Where God says what is, He gave His standard. Moral relativism, postmodernism, and law of dilemma. So basically, moral relativism, all of these basically say, I say what is right and what is wrong. Okay? I don't want to go back into bondage, basically saying, according to Scripture, freedom, according to Scripture, is bondage. Okay? 2, this sounds like what the Judaizers were trying to get Christians to abide by the Jewish standards, to make them acceptable to the Jewish community and therefore more acceptable to God. My response. Jewish standards, I thought it was God's standards as it came from Him. If then God's standards, is it then calling Christians to abide by His standards evil? Or is it evil in the way that this is being done, like forcing someone to accept something that he doesn't know or understand? Yet rather than giving him time to learn. I would definitely opt for the latter, wouldn't you? In other words, are you saying God's standards are evil, or are you saying the way this was applied was evil? If someone doesn't know God or doesn't know His law, how can you expect him to be guilty of something he doesn't even know? How can you expect him to suddenly keep everything he doesn't even know? It doesn't work like that. From looking at this video, what I saw was someone taking a doctrine and testing it, then forming a conclusion and a recommendation. Irrelevant if his conclusion and recommendation is correct or not, I do not think qualifying doctrines merits being called Judaizing. Because if this was the case, then it would mean that we must take doctrines like, is incest okay? Do we need to pay the tithe? Circumcision, making graven images, etc., without qualification, or lest we are denounced as Judaizers. Okay? In other words, If we test a doctrine, we're Judaizers, according to his point here. 3. They try to insist that Christians should be circumcised in the flesh, yet Jesus spoke of circumcision in the heart. My response: this is a red herring here, as the topic is not addressing the false doctrine of forcing circumcision on new converts. You see what he tried to do and what I did. He tried to bring positive verse information. I'm just, no, we're dealing with this now. Okay? See how useful logical fallacies are. They spoke about food that goes in through the mouth, yet Jesus spoke about what comes out of the mouth reveals what in the heart of the man. So my response: if I take your comment here at face value, I must accept that Jesus said we can eat anything that pleases us. This includes destructive things to the human body. To disagree here would directly be self-defeating to your own statement. You want to drink oil, Jesus said it's okay. Because it's not what goes in the mouth that defiles man, but what comes out. If you disagree, well then Jesus did not say what he intends to say. What he interprets he said. On the contrary, in Matthew 15:11, Jesus was pointing out how the Pharisees had the wrong focus. They focused on things like the unbiblical traditions, such as the washing of the hands. Now let me just pause there. My view on traditions, it's okay. I get worried if the tradition starts replacing the Word of God. Okay. I don't have any problem with any tradition. I have a problem when they replace the Word, which is what happened in Matthew 15. Okay? They instead of doing that which is right, they were so bad that they made the law of God nugatory in favor for these unbiblical man-made traditions. So Jesus was simply saying, it's not about the traditions, it's about the law of God. That's what he's saying. That's basically because the whole topic was about the washing of the hands. Why? Because the hands have to be clean before you eat. But at the same time, they were nullifying his law.
Can I comment there? But also, Mark, I think Mark chapter 7, it's the same portion referring to this. It was wheat that were eating.
Yes.
Wheat, and people always use the argument against meat.
Yes.
And it wasn't even referring to that. It wasn't even referring to a food that was unclean.
Yes.
Wheat was a clean food.
You see, what they're trying to do is they're trying to push their traditions over the rules. Yeah. Okay. Next, you see how I break all the guy's comment down. So in a general discussion session, when you're talking mouth to mouth, sit down, let the guy speak his heart's content, and jot down the sections that he said, and address them individually. Not as a whole lump. You will go on ad infinitum. You will not stop having that discussion, and you will talk past each other like that's like two guys trying to high five, but it's not going to make sense. Okay. I noticed that Acts 10 was not explicitly explained, but is understandable because he does not understand Acts 10. He could never understand Acts 10 because you can't understand it in the spirit of what Jesus revealed to Peter. My response? This is simply a no true Scotsman fallacy, as you are concluding that the reason you think the post's position is incorrect is because you are spiritually influenced and they are not. He can also turn around and say that his position is correct because he is influenced by the Spirit and you are not. Consequently, stalemate. To illustrate, my interpretation of Acts 10 was about God not being a respecter of persons, but the Jews considered the Gentiles as unclean. So God used a vision of clean and unclean animals as symbolic, and Peter understood the vision's meaning. It was a vision, not a reality. Furthermore, nowhere is it recorded of Peter actually eating any of the animals. You are wrong because, and now listen to this, you are wrong because, now I quote him, could never understand Acts 10 because you can't understand it in the spirit of what Jesus revealed to Peter. I used his own argument against him. Okay? Do you see how useful logical fallacies are? Learn them. Understand when people are saying things. You can take what they say and use it to be judgmental of themselves. 6. I am confident in saying that unless you look at the whole Bible from a spiritual perspective, you will never understand the gospel of Jesus Christ or know the heart of God. Again, no true Scotsman fallacy. Here, as you are concluding that the reason you are correct is because you believe you are spiritually influenced and he is not. I hope this guy catches a wake-up call before it's too late. My response. I do hope that if you respond to this comment that you will not refer to text that seems to imply that we are not to judge each other regarding eating and drinking, as it would be hypocritical to do so while at the same time making a judgment call. I'm referring to Colossians 2. Okay. Because they usually say, let no man therefore judge you, but he is making a judgment call. Okay? What's his response? Oh, and then I say, always, good day. Good day, smiley face.
That's because your eyes are smiling.
I think this is a little bit statistical.
I think you're drawing people into a trap.
I think that's a little bit of a statistical, like good luck.
It's good to be polite.
His response, he actually gave 3 comments.
Hi Willem, your response is exactly what I expected from somebody, and I had no clue who it would be, however...
Right, sorry, Mark.
Steve.
I tried.
Posted the clip and that's my response. I'm not into debating or arguing, but I do listen, so let's just say that time will tell. One of us is deceived, I wonder who it will be. Take care. Hey Willem, I'm back! Just googled Hebrew Roots Movement exposed pages and pages of stuff. Surely they can't all be wrong. Must be something in it. Don't worry, there's tons of bad Christian stuff out there too, and just about all of them are not wrong either. For all the other readers who read this, I challenge you, do the Google and decide for yourself. The Hebrew Roots Movement has... Yeah, do the Google. Rate it as check it out for yourselves and choose your own destiny. Cheers.
He hasn't, no, the person hasn't addressed
Quick! Yeah, you picked it up. Was there anything in response to whatever I said? Why?
Because you did the Google.
Remember, in the beginning I said, we're dealing with a time-waster spirit. And remember, one of the effective countermeasures was to take it up and break it apart, and to deal with it accordingly and stay on topic. That's exactly what I've done. He can't respond. And even if you respond, eventually you will burn out. Because the time waster will recognize that you can't waste time. Okay? If I were to respond normally, just have the conversation go, it will go on and on and on and on. Eventually he will get bored and move away, but I've not wasted so much time. The time waster spirit, just understand what his purpose is and thwart it. That's it. That's it. That's all I've really been doing. I make it look easy, but it took some practice from me. You guys need to recognize these things and see it and know exactly how to start doing it.
I love the way, just because there's volumes of stuff, because it doesn't even say university research, just stuff, that because the volume is there, it must be true.
Hang on, I'm tackling, let me tackle that. Again,
As you want to do that.
No.
again, breaking it up into points. Remember, we're dealing with the time waster spirit, break it up into points. Okay? Hi Willem, your response is exactly what I expect from somebody. My response, no true Scotsman fallacy here, because you put yourself in the position that you are right and that any opposing thought are thus wrong. And their response is to be expected. For example, Billy says 1 + 1 = 3, and Sally responds by saying it is 2. And so Billy tries to dismiss Sally by saying, Sally, your response is exactly what I expect from somebody.
Somebody.
Also, I'm not buying your claim here. I think you're simply expecting an opposing thought, not a response such as mine.
Not to boast or anything, but I don't think people like me respond. He deals with a lot of people that like me that responds in that way. So I'm not buying what he's saying. 2. Another person, the person posted the clip, and that's my response. I'm not into debating or arguing, but I do listen.
Really?
That's what he said now. I'm not buying it, I said to him. If that were the case, then you would not have responded at all and just listened. Even after my rebuttal, you're simply opting out and making an excuse for doing so. Nevertheless, I will respect your wish to opt out here. Okay. But why? Why would I respect that?
Because you don't want to carry on.
I respect the other person's position. Always respect the other person. If they don't want to carry on the discussion, then cease it. There's no reason to continue. Okay? And they do statements like this to show that they don't want to carry the discussion further because actually they don't want to show themselves that they can't or that they don't really want to, or whatever the reason is. Respect it.
Yeah.
Okay? Not buying it.
One of us is deceived. I wonder who it will be. My response. I agree with you here. I hope it's not me, or else we serve a God who thinks that morality derives in a relativistic manner, and it is thus deception to follow his instructions instead of our own. To this statement, I would refer to 2 Peter 3:14 to 18, 2 Thessalonians 2:7-12, and Isaiah 8 verse 20, and 5:20 to 24, in knowing what deception or delusion is, as these passages explicitly state it. What's the deception? Lawlessness. And they explicitly says that. So I'm not wrong, or God wants me to be deceived.
And yours.
4. By the way, Willem, I've just had a look at your Facebook, and are you guys into this Hebrew roots movement? Is this what this is all about? Hey, Willem, I'm back. Just Google Hebrew roots movement exposed. Pages and pages of stuff. Surely they can't all be wrong. Must be something in it. Don't worry, there's tons of bad Christian stuff out there too, and just about all of them are not wrong either. My response? This is simply an appeal to an association fallacy. By trying to denounce a position based on its association. Furthermore, your method at wanting, there's something I missed here, but I didn't respond to it. It's also called cherry picking. I'll get to that now. And but I'm explaining cherry picking here, but it is basically what it is. Furthermore, your method at wanting to know if something is true or not is simply biased. For example, if I'm an atheist and I want to know if the Bible is true, do I Google the Bible contradictions atheist? And then look at the pages and pages of stuff. Remember, note that I'm quoting him. And say, surely they can't all be wrong, and thus conclude the Bible's not true. Use this exact same method. Or do we have a double standard here? My last response, as stated, I will respect your wish to opt out and will not further engage in this debate, discussions, and will therefore end this discussion here accordingly, even if you respond to this comment.
Why? Because he asked for it. So, okay, well then let me stop. If he's going to respond now, I will stop because I respected his request. Okay. Did you see the way that I go at it? It's very hard actually. This is me going very hard at someone. Why? If you notice his initial response.
It was harsh.
It was very to the jugular.
Yes. Now, I had this discussion with Rika now. When do I actually respond to that? There's 2 things that I look for. One, how much light does a person have? What is light? I am is light, the word is light, Messiah is light, the law and commandments are light. How much light does a person have? Okay? I would not respond to the same guy, the same way if the person was an atheist. Why? I would use different methods of addressing. Okay? Or if the guy was a Muslim. Okay? My response is not one shoe fits all, it depends on the other person. The other thing is, how often do I encounter or see this person? Same, if the person I only see once or twice, then I go much more. If the person I see every week, like your dad or your mother or so, I hold back a little. Because then I just check a little bit. We watched the movie Case for Christ last night, and the atheist man is Lee's brushing his teeth, and his wife lets him alone out of the window that says, I love you and God loves you too. little things. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So I'm going to now show a comment or two from what I've done. So I'm going to sit now and show you some of the comments that I've done. And not too much of a thing. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to open a Word document here.
So there's a question.
Sure.
That debate, the dialogue debate.
Yeah, stop. Here's the thing, another thing, a lot of people ask, but did the person then convert? Or did you convince the person? Again, in my first lecture, I said, it is not, or in my second lecture, it's not about converting or convincing the person. It's about sowing the seed and learning yourself and defending those around you. The person is a free agent who can choose for himself, and you can list millions and millions and infinite arguments that are factual, and if the person just doesn't want to know it, he will not. Case in point. How many believed on Christ after Lazarus rose?
Story you have to be honest down to it. So
How many if a person doesn't want to have faith, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. So some of these comments I just pulled up randomly, and I'm just responding randomly. Antinomian simply means lawless, so I just replaced the person's name with antinomian. Okay. The old covenant was fulfilled, and a far better new covenant was established through the shedding of the blood of Jesus, the Messiah. The old covenant was based on works and failed to save anyone. The new covenant is based on grace and faith, and many have been saved.